By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we're going to look at the finals of X Points edition 44. Wow, we're already at 44. In case you don't know, X Points is a format that plays according to the Atlantic rule set, but it also has a points system. And when you build your deck, you cannot spend more than 10 points on cards with points allocated to them. And here you see the current points list, right? So when you're brewing your deck, you've got to keep this in the back of your mind. And the cool thing about X Points is they have monthly tournaments online, all for free. So if you want to join in on the fun, all you have to do is check out the video's description, because there you will find a link to their Facebook page and you can just sign up for free and jump into the X Points world. It's a really cool and open community. And like I said, this is X Points Finals 44 between Joel and, let's see, Felix. Joel is playing kind of a counter burn list, but then with 4 Atogs and 4 Savannah lines, so it's quite interesting. And he is taking on, like I said, Felix, and Felix is playing a creatureles deck, a 4-color creatureles deck. The main colors in this deck are white and blue, so it's very controlling, as one would expect from a creatureles deck. So yeah, this is going to be a very interesting matchup where we have that classical situation of those two strategies, aggro versus control. That's really what this is all about. Now, before I jump into the deck text, I've got lovely photos of both of these decks. First, a message from the sponsor of this video, 3for1 Trading. Exciting news, because 3for1 Trading is having a Black Friday sale that starts tomorrow. All their high-end singles, full sets, and out-of-print seal products are 5% off, and they offer worldwide free shipping on all orders over $500 or euros. Their online store has a fantastic selection of high-end Magic cards, especially for vintage, legacy, and yes, old school Magic the Gathering players. They will have an additional special sale every day the promotion is running. You can now sign up on their website to be the first one to know when their Black Friday promotion starts and when new sale items go online. Have fun ordering cards, and thank you 3for1 Trading for sponsoring this video. And we are back and ready to jump into the deck text. I'm going to start with the deck of the player on the top. That's Joel. Let's have a look. And here we see the deck of Joel. So in the introduction, I talked about like counter burn, but look at it. There are no counter spells in here. It's all about the burn. So it's really Atog Burn, 4 Atogs there. And when you look at the creature base, it's super aggressive, right? We've got a turn 1 Savannah line, turn 2 Atog, and a turn 3 Surrender Befried. So very low casting cost creatures that can hit for a lot. And then, of course, there's a lot of burn in here as well. 4 Psionic Blasts, 4 Bolts, 4 Chains. And then, I mean, even an Earthquake, of course, and Forks. So if you fork it right, you can actually have 6 Bolts, for example, which is insane. This is so aggressive. We also see 4 Vice. We see 4 Ankh of Mishra. I mean, I kind of, whenever I see the combination Black Vice Ankh, it takes me back. That's really an old school combination. You play your Vice, that means that your opponent wants to empty his hand, but then you also have the Ankh, which means your opponent doesn't want to play lands because then they take damage. So it's kind of this catch-22 that you find yourself in. And against these decks, it's just so tough because the pressure is on, right? From the get-go, you're going to get damage, and then you have to try to survive. Now, what's interesting here in this list is the White Splash for the Savannah lines. I find it quite interesting. You could, for example, also go for Flying Man, but he chose to go for Savannah lines. But I think a bigger reason to splash white in here is that it gives you access to the disenchants in the sideboard and to the COP blacks in the sideboard as well. And perhaps when you're playing a mirror match, you can board in that Spirit Link. A little bit of life gain can be a big difference when you play against another burn deck. And then in the sideboard, there are 2 cards that really stand out here for me. And one of those cards is the Karma. Excuse me, I've got a little cold, so you're probably hearing it. But that's the Karma. So Karma, of course, an enchantment, 2 white and 2 to cast that punishes your opponent for having swamps. It's a really cool card. Love the art, but maybe hard to cast because of that double white. Another card that's equally hard to cast that I've noticed as well is Eye for an Eye. I think Eye for an Eye is a really cool card. It's a surprise that nobody sees coming. And maybe Joel will board it in against Felix because Felix is playing with a Fireball as a finisher. And then, of course, Eye for an Eye can be great. So yeah, that could be interesting to kind of see how that goes. Anyway, this is the deck of Joel. Now let's take a look at the deck of Felix. And here we see the deck of Felix. So this is a 5-color control deck, which is completely creatureless. This deck is going slow, you know, and I think it could be quite successful in this matchup because there's also a lot of life gain in this deck and a lot of ways to kill early creatures. And I think Felix wouldn't have made it to the finals if it wouldn't be good against aggro decks, because in X points you're going to see a lot of creature heavy decks. That means that cards like Moat, cards like the Abyss, which are both in this deck, are better in a creature heavy meta. And also the card Wrath of God is quite good. I'm a little bit surprised that he's only playing with 1 Wrath of God and he is playing with 4 Swords to Plowshares, but maybe it also makes sense because he's also playing with some burn of his own, which he probably will mainly point towards the creatures like the lightning bolts. They can take away those early hippies, for example. Then you've got your Psionic Blast, who can maybe take care of a Serra Angel that has been ramped out quickly. So you've kind of have your burn to take care of a lot of, you know, early creature threats, and then the swords. And maybe if he still manages to get a lot of creatures on the board, you can always have the Wrath. Or when you have an early Moat and a Maze out, your opponent's going to commit more to the board, and then you can have a big Wrath and kind of clear up the creatures from your opponent. Now, the 2 cards that I really notice here, they're actually 2 of the same. So the 1 card I noticed here is Reverse Damage. I think it's so cool, Felix, that you're playing with Reverse Damage. I also saw an Eye for an Eye in the deck of Joel, and actually Reverse Damage and Eye for an Eye is kind of a forgotten combo because you can combine them in a way so that you don't take any damage at all and your opponent takes damage from his own creature or his own fireball, whatever he's chosen to kind of play on you. So that's pretty cool. Reverse Damage, a card that says all the damage that you would take is now changed into life gain instead. So that's of course great against all those aggro burn decks that Felix is playing against today. So in my eyes, Felix is the favorite because his deck is built to play against decks like Joel's. Having said that, Joel's deck is so insanely quick, it's so insanely painful that even if you have all the answers, maybe you don't have the right answer at the right time. Maybe you have a hiccup, maybe you miss a land drop, maybe you go a little bit too slow. Boom, 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 boom. The game could be over already, right? Remember Joel's deck, it has no mercy. Right? So it's really up to Felix to try to stabilize. And I think, for example, if Joel has like an early Vice or an early double Vice, that he will then force Felix to start emptying his hand, meaning that he cannot play the control game that maybe he wanted to, and also meaning that his Ivory Towers are not going to be as good as he expected. If we're going to have a situation where Joel will drop a Black Vice and Felix will drop an Ivory Tower, you know, then you have a completely different story, of course. So yeah, I think for me in this match, Felix is a slight favorite just because when I'm looking at his deck, it's kind of built to deal with decks like Joel's. But again, like I said, Joel's deck, so painful. Just by looking at it, I'm getting a headache. You know, like, oh man, you have so little time against a deck like this. Anyway, this is the deck of Felix. We've looked at the deck of Joel, so that means we are ready to go into the finals of X Points 44. I'm looking forward to this one. Let's go. Game number 1, here we go. And it looks like Joel here is taking a mulligan. Seems at least. Or maybe he drew too many cards. Yeah, so he's taking a 1 mulligan, I think. So starts with 6. I believe he's also on the play. So on the bottom, we have Felix. On the top, Joel. Joel's playing a very aggressive deck. Look at him go here. Ankh of Mishra turn 1. He's playing 4 Atogs, lots of burn. And yeah, as you can see, Ankh of Mishra also Vices. Felix is playing a 5-color control deck that is completely creatureless. So both players on a really different strategy here. We see Felix, by the way, dropping to 18 because of that Ankh. And Joel also dropping here to 18 himself. Let's see if he can play a creature threat. It's going to tap 2. There's the Atog, playing with 4 Atogs, 4 Savannah Lions, and also 4 Surrender Befriets. There's a Chain Lightning. Yeah, this is as to be expected. Just a lot of early pain from Joel. Everything in his deck hurts. Well, I guess except the Lance and the Moxen. There's a Lightning Bolt. On the Atog, in response, Joel is going to sack the Mox to keep the Atog alive. More damage here for Felix, dropping to 13 with that Savannah on the board. And he's really in defense mode here at the start of the match. There's a Chaos Orb. Passing the turn. So, I mean, Joel can swing in here for 3 if he animates the factory. I believe only 2 cards in hand for Joel. And I mean, it's basically a free attack with the factory because Felix is tapped out. Normally, it's really a risk, to attack with the factory, but in this case, it's kind of a free attack. Joel taking 2 more points of damage, playing the land, going to 16. I wonder what that final card in hand is. Perhaps it's a Surrendered Efreet and he's thinking about playing the Efreet and attacking with Atog, or attacking with the factory and the Atog. And that's of course the thing with Joel's deck. It's super quick, everything hurts, but they tend to run out of steam at a certain point. And if Felix can then stabilize, he could eventually still win this first game. There's the attack, just with the Atog. So Felix taking a point of damage, going to 12. And then I'm really expecting Joel to play out something here. Tapping 2. There's another Ankh. Okay. So really trying to make it hard for Felix to play out any more lands. And this makes it very tempting for Joel to at least flip on one of the Ankh of Mishras with the Chaos Orb. Then play out a land, only take 2 points of damage, and then possibly disenchant the other Ankh. On the other hand, if that's the line that you're going to take, you'll be on 10, I believe. And then you'll take, of course, Atog damage. And you'll take damage from the factory potentially next turn. So you'll go quite low, which is not nice when you play against Joel, because Joel has access to 4 bolts, 4 chains, and 4 psionic blasts. Here's the flip. So let's see what he's going to flip on first. If he hits it, he does hit it, and he's going to go for the Atog. Passing the turn. Now, Felix is also playing with 4 bolts. So if Joel animates the factory here, the risk is that there will be a bolt played on it. And he is taking the risk on attack. Are we going to see a bolt? That's the big question. No, we're not. So a good decision by Joel, I guess. Gonna put Felix on 10. And there's a Savannah Lines. Yeah, it's looking really good here for Joel. Only 10 points left for Felix. And it's so hard for him now to play out anything here. If he plays out a land, okay, there's a Divine Offering. That is really good because it's also life gain. Gonna go up to 12. Gonna play a land. It's a mace. Okay, he's gonna go back to 10 though, but at least it's a mace. But again, Joel, can animate the factory, deal 2 damage if he attacks with both creatures. Oh, there's another factory. Really good, more pressure on the board. Gonna animate and swing in, and I assume that Felix is gonna send back the factory exactly. Take 2, gonna drop to 8. Untap, upkeep, draw here. Let's see what Felix can do. Another land, gonna drop to 6. Oh! This is so risky, but Felix has to do something, of course. You cannot just sit back and then die to the Savannah Lines and the double factory. And that's the painful thing about the Ankh if you're behind, Especially against the burn deck. It's so tough. Every land takes life from you. I'm expecting Joel just to animate everything here, swing in for 6. And sure, there's a risk, that you're going to run into a bolt or a disenchant. Or a swords, of course. But, I mean, you're the aggro player. He is really in the tank here, trying to figure out what to do. He's going to animate 1. So deciding not to attack with both. Waiting for Felix here to respond. But of course, Felix is just waiting, buying time. He can wait for combat before making a decision. So I guess Joel is now really thinking, do I want to animate my second factory or not? And he is doing it. I think it's a good decision because you're the aggro player. So even if this turns out wrong, this is what your deck wants to do. There's the attack, swinging in. Tapping 3. Ooh, what is this? A Psionic Blast. Oh, that's not a great answer for Felix because it damages Felix as well. Look at that, dropping to 2. Wow. And that's it. Felix picking up the card. So Joel winning this first game here of the finals. Now both players are going to dive into their sideboards, and we will catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 2. Here we go. So it's Felix on the play after losing that first game, starting with an Ivory Tower. This is a really good start for Felix. I feel like against these burn decks, any life gain is really good. A little bit of life gain can get you a long way. Let's see what Joel can do turn 1. Also starting with the plateau. Perhaps he has a Black Vice in hand that would kind of cancel the tower out. It seems like he does have some options here. Really thinking about what to do here in this turn 1. Soul Ring, tapping the Soul Ring. Are we going to see an Ankh? We're going to see a Vice. And taking a point of damage from Mana Burn. Remember, this is Atlantic rules, meaning Mana Burn is real. And you can also play with Fallen Empires, of course. Here we see a City of Brass on the side of Felix. And I mean, the City of Brass is actually good news for Joel. Everything that hurts Felix is good news for him. And the fact that he's playing the city out now kind of also signals to Joel that he doesn't have any other, option. No other land in hand. Let's see what Joel can do here at turn 2. There's a Strip Mine. I would take away the plateau here. That's exactly what he does. Kind of trying to force Felix, of course, to start using that City of Brass. So the plateau is a goner. And the question is, does Joel have a follow-up? Like a Savannah Lines would be really sweet, or an Atog. Just something to put some pressure on. Tapping 2 more, are we going to see an Ankh? There's the Ankh. So now we've got the classic Ankh Mishra story going on. And that's, of course, not great for Felix. So he's going to take a point of damage here, playing an Ancestral Recall. There's a Lightning Bolt, so more damage for Felix. Going to drop to 16. I believe, did he draw a card for turn here? Not quite sure if he did. I saw him draw 3 cards for Ancestral Recall. Then perhaps he forgot to draw the card for turn. Not 100% sure, though. Went quite fast. Anyway, Felix on 14. Joel on 19. 3 cards in hand for Joel, we can see. And of course, a lot more for Felix after playing that Ancestral Recall. Just a pass and then a Disenchant in the upkeep. He's going to take another point of damage from his City of Brass. I wonder what he's going to disenchant. Yep. The Vice really wants to start gaining life from the tower. And this is, of course, really bad news for Joel, because when you have a burn deck, you really don't want to see your opponent gaining life. That's like running backwards. He has to get rid of the tower, or at least put some pressure on. Another Vice would already be a good answer, but also just a Savannah Lines, or like I said, an Atog, just something to start dealing damage. But maybe his hand is just full of burn, and in this situation, it's not really good. I mean, let's say he has like a Psionic Blast, a Chain Lightning, and a Bolt. I mean, that's really good. It's 10 points of damage, but Felix is going to survive that, and he's going to gain life next turn. He's going to tap 2. Are we going to see a Surrender Efreet, perhaps? A Disenchant. Yeah, this is what you have to do. You have to get rid of the tower. I think this is a really good decision by Joel. Only 2 more cards in hand, so Felix really has card advantage. And passing the turn here. So Felix taking the turn. You look at that grip. He's got 6 cards in hand, right? Taking a damage, playing the Sylvan. Joel again going through his hand. 3 cards now after the draw. Tap 2. Okay, there's a city. Is he going to flip on... Could go for Oraland or the Sylvan. I mean, both is interesting. He is flipping, and I agree with that. Because if you wait and Felix untaps, maybe finds a Disenchant, he can Disenchant in response. Yep, good flip here. So taking the land. And again, he's saying to Felix, you know what? Look at the top 3 cards. You got to pay 4 life to draw an extra card, right? And now you've got to pay 2 life every time you play a land. You only have 1 land in the game, and that lands hurts you as well. So Felix is actually in a pretty bad position. Dropping to 10 here after playing the Tropical Island. And when I saw the deck list of Felix, I actually thought that Felix was the favorite here. Because his deck seems to kind of be made to play against decks like Joel's. But again, Joel's deck is so explosive. Everything hurts in his deck. It's so hard to stay alive. And that's what we're seeing here in this final so far. So Atog hitting the board and a Black Vice. Wow. I mean, luckily for Felix, he's got 4 in hand. Doesn't have to take damage from the Vice. But he's in a pretty good, pretty bad spot, I mean, here. It's really looking up for Joel. And remember, Joel's already up a game. If he wins this, he is the champion of X Points 44. We're not there yet, of course. But it's not looking great for Felix. So 5 cards in hand. And now we've got that classic Black Vice Ankh of Mishra going. You want to play out things in your hand, but to do that, you need to play lands. You don't want to play lands because of the Ankh. Look at that. Just passing the turn. Joel drawing a card, 2 cards in hand now, and I guess you just want to turn that Atog sideways and see what Felix is going to do. I mean, let's say Felix flips on the Atog. That's great. I guess the best thing here for Joel is if he has an answer to the Atog and he can flip on the Ankh, and then he can kind of start playing lands and start to kind of build on something. And the bad news for Felix here is that he's already on 9. Okay, tapping 2. What are we going to see? Ooh, there's a detonate from Antiquities. Oh, this is bad. It could mean 2 points of damage. Kind of forcing Felix here to activate his Chaos Orb in response. I mean, he has to, right? Exactly. Going to tap, going to activate it in response. And then I would flip on the Ankh. I think you have to do that. Or on the Atog. If you don't have an answer to the Atog, because he can sack all the artifacts to the Atog. The thing is, by the way, and I don't know if these players know this, if you activate the Chaos Orb, your opponent has to respond before they know the target. Exactly. And so this is what's going potentially wrong here. So for example, if Felix says, I'm going to flip on your Ankh. Okay, we see a blue Elemental Blast. So I guess it's not relevant now, but you know, if Felix says, I'm going to flip on your Ankh, and Joel says, in response, I'm going to sack my Ankh to the Atog, that's actually not how the Chaos Orb works. By the way, we see a red Circle of Protection red here hitting the board. This is huge. COP red could be a lifesaver for Felix here. And this could turn into a long game now, right? I thought when he was on 8, this is going to be another short one, short finals. But Felix is now in control, and you can kind of see the demeanor of Joel, like crossing the arms, like, okay, this could take a while. Yeah, 4 cards in hand for Felix, 2 cards in hand for Joel. There's another land. And this must be great for Felix that getting rid of that Ankh was key, and of course the blue Elemental Blast was so important. And he could have chosen, of course, to counter the detonate with the blue Elemental Blast, but it was a good decision that he didn't. Okay, there's a Transmute Artifact. Interesting here. I wonder what he's going to go for. I mean, his deck doesn't need a lot of mana, so he could consider going for the Soul Ring. Then, of course, it would still tap the Soul Ring for 2F2 in the pool, then go and look for something. There is a counterspell, though, so we will never know what he would have sacrificed. There's a pass. I think he would have sacked the Soul Ring and look up like an Ankh of Mishra or something, because Ankh is so annoying for Felix. Then again, Felix already has 4 lands on the battlefield, so the more lands your opponent have, of course, the less value the Ankh actually has. And you see that a lot, by the way, in these Atog aggro builds. A lot of those cards are really good early in the game, like Vice, like Ankh. But the longer the game takes, you know, the less power these cards have, and the better it's going to be for your opponent. Felix here playing an Ivory Tower, 3 cards in hand. So we've got Ivory versus Black Vice again. There's a Savannah Alliance, passing the turn. And I mean, this alliance is nice because it's white, so you cannot stop it with COP red. And I'm kind of expecting Joel also to have boarded in his 2 disenchants from the side, by the way, because you're kind of expecting to run into Circles of Protection. There's an Underground Sea, tapping 4. There's the Abyss. Ooh, that is not great. That is not great. Losing the Savannah lines here to the Abyss. And one of the good things about the Abyss is for Felix that it doesn't sacrifice itself or destroy itself when there are no more creatures in play. Like Drop of Honey does that, Pestilence does that. The Abyss doesn't. The Abyss simply stays the Abyss. It doesn't care if there are any creatures on the board. It doesn't work like that. So Felix here again, looking at the top 3 cards. He's really in a good position here. And remember, he's playing creatureless. He's got no threats in his deck. He's playing with Psionic Blasts, Lightning Bolts, and a Fireball to kind of finish the game. But that's it, I believe. So I think we're just going to see a lot of top decking here from both players. Now, do remember that Joel, of course, also has access to 4 Psionic Blasts, and that's a blue source. And Felix doesn't have a COP blue. So Joel could still try to find all those Psionic Blasts and kind of blast Felix into his death that way. Felix here drawing card number 4. It seems passing the turn back to Joel. And yeah, we're definitely in for a longer game here. 3 cards in hand still for Joel, or 4. No, 4 cards actually. No 3. Okay. It's hard to see. Yeah, there are 4 cards. It doesn't matter that much. So both players having the same amount of cards in hand. And I guess Joel is really trying to find a line. I mean, Felix is already on 8. But the Abyss and COP Red make it really difficult for him. I think as soon as Felix finds a way to get rid of the Vice and starts to gain life with the tower, that's when you're really in trouble. I mean, Joel can still win this. Passing to Felix, I believe, but maybe Felix wants to do something on end step. Yeah, there we see the Divine Offering on the Vice, I assume. Yeah, and now Felix will start to gain life, not directly because he only has 3 cards in hand, but he'll start stocking up on cards, trying to get his tower to work. Yeah, and Joel now has to decide, but I believe Joel doesn't play with any counter magic. So maybe he's pretending to have a counterspell in hand here. He's going to do something. Okay, there's a Psionic Blast in response. So that would put Felix on 4. That means he's only 1 Psionic Blast away from winning this. We are going to see a counterspell though. So it's countered, Vice is gone, and that means another life for Felix because that was a Divine Offering. Divine Offering is so good for Felix here in this matchup. So looking at the top 3 again. Passing the turn. And it's up to Joel. But even that 1 life gained, from destroying the Vice puts Felix on 9. And even that's really annoying for Joel because when he's on 8, okay, double blast, I can win this. But now he's on 9 and you've already played a Psionic Blast, and even 2 blasts are not going to be enough. And what are the chances that you're going to resolve those blasts against a control deck? So these are all thoughts that you have in your mind. And then, of course, there's the Abyss. I mean, you kind of just drop a Savannah Lines and say, okay, you got to deal with this Lines now. Your opponent's just going to laugh and say, I've got the Abyss, I'm fine. You could consider, I guess, if you're Felix, at a certain point, just play out a double creature or triple creature even. And say, okay, I'm just going to lose 1 creature to the Abyss, but I can still attack with the other 2. I mean, that that could be a line. The problem for Joel, though, is the clock is ticking, because as soon as Felix is starting to gain life with the tower, it's as good as over. And I think Joel knows that. Joel knows, okay, now still have a chance. It's a slim one, but I still have a chance. Going to tap 2. What are we going to see for 2? There's an Atog, so I'm expecting a double creature to hit the board. No counterspell. There's an Ankh. Is there going to be Savannah Lines or maybe another Atog? No, just a pass here. This surprises me. Does that mean that he's planning to play an end-step disenchant on the Abyss, or is he simply making a mistake here? Because I think the Atog is going to die to the Abyss next turn. And that makes me wonder, why did you play it out? Also, because Felix, of course, has that COP red. And now it's Felix's turn to think, of course, looking at the top 3 cards with the Sylvan. Just going to pick the 1. So 4 cards in hand. Looks like he wants to play something out. They're putting 3 lands separate, but putting them back again. I mean, if you're Felix, is there really a reason to play anything out at this stage? He is going to do it, though. There's a reverse damage. That's interesting. So maybe it's because he wants to play out a land. So he's going to say, the next time I'm taking damage from the Ankh, I'm gaining life instead. That he's just going to gain 2 life, go back up to 11 if he now plays a land. Is that how this works? Yep, there's the land. So in response, Joel's saying, okay, if you do that, before you play the land, I feed it to the Atog. And look at this, the Atog just dies here to the Abyss. So that was an interesting moment. I've never seen that before, someone plays a reverse damage. Says, when that sword is going to deal damage to me this turn, I'm going to gain life of it instead. Knowing that you can gain in 2 life from playing a land. That's pretty cool. And then Joel in response sacking into the Atog saying, no, this is not going to happen. Really interesting. That's what I love about Magic. Every time you see new things, like, oh, does it work that way? Yes, it does. Cool. That's cool to know. So Joel here tapping a plateau. Is he going to play a Savannah Lines? I mean, why would you? You're just going to feed it to the Abyss. And I'm still a little bit puzzled about playing out that Atog earlier. Maybe he was trying to lure out a counterspell or something. Because it looks like he just lost it now to the Abyss without it having any real value. So 3 cards in hand for him. And like I said, I would really now try to stock up on creatures and try to find a turn where I can at least play 2 creatures a turn, or maybe even 3 creatures a turn, so that it can keep feeding 1 creature to the Abyss and just keep attacking with the rest. I mean, is it a great strategy? No, but you're with the back against the wall here, so you have to do something. Okay, there's a Chain Lightning. Of course, we're going to see COP red, so I'm expecting another chain perhaps, or another bolt. Okay, there's a Vice. Does he have a Wheel of Fortune in hand? That could be an explanation. Yeah, that also explains why he was playing out the Atog earlier. He was really working towards playing out that Wheel of Fortune. I love a good wheel. So 7 in hand now for Joel, 7 in hand for Felix. Now remember, Felix has a tower and Joel has a Vice, so those 2 artifacts, they cross each other out. But if Joel can find another Vice, that would be really good for him here. First, playing out a Mishra's Factory, also useful. Ooh, a Ruby. For a moment, I thought it was going to be another Vice. Another Vice will be a big problem for Felix. Are we going to see another Vice? I'm afraid not, or else Joel would have probably dropped it already. And now, of course, if Felix has found a disenchant, he could on end step disenchant the Vice and then start gaining life from the tower. That would be an interesting line for Felix. I wonder if Joel has already passed or if he's just in the tank here trying to think what he can do. And I really wonder if Joel has boarded in the disenchants. I'm sure he has, because then he's playing with 2 disenchants in his deck. And if he just can find a disenchant, he can take care of the Abyss and he can start playing out his Serendips again, you know. There's a Psionic Blast here first. There's a Counterspell though, so he's going to go to 8. And I mean, that's nice to know for Felix that at least, or for Joel, that at least, okay, it gets countered, but at least he's taking a damage, he's back on 8. And I feel with these burn decks, that is where Time Twister really shines, right? Because then if you, instead of playing a wheel, play Twister, you get to shuffle all that burn back in. Now Felix looking at the top 3. And of course, after that wheel, he's looking at 3 new cards, because after the wheel, you shuffle your library. Well, do you actually? No, you don't. My mistake. But you take 7 new cards, so you do see 3 new ones. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, there's a regrowth here. What to regrowth? So much in there. Yeah, could go for Divine Offering, take care of the Vice. Thinking of reverse damage as well, also a really good option. Yeah, so many good cards. Blue Elemental Blast against Burn. Then again, you already have your COP red, so I guess that's not a good choice. Also has, I believe, was it this game, that Ancestral Recall? I forgot. Or was it the first game that Felix played out, the Ancestral? I guess it was the first game, or else he would have picked it up already. Yeah, Counterspell, also a good option. Gonna go for Divine Offering. And I understand why, because you take out the Vice, you gain a life, and you activate your tower. You know, and you've got enough cards in hand to actually gain life from the tower. So this makes sense. I would play it out right now, because you do know that Joel cannot counter it or do anything against it if you play the Divine Offering now. Because I do not think that this finals is played with open deck lists. So Felix doesn't know that Joel actually isn't playing with any counter magic at all. Okay, passing the turn. So probably is deciding to keep the Divine Offering in hand and kind of decide on Joel's end step what he wants to do. Yeah, let's see what Joel can do here. I mean, he could animate the factory, try to swing in. Why not? I mean, probably Felix has an answer, but let him have the answer. I mean, he's on 8. I would personally, but again, of course, I don't know what's in Joel's hand, but I would say animate the factory, swing in there. If he has a bolt or whatever, he has it. Whatever, do it. Do your thing. He has a Divine Offering as well, of course, but then use the Divine Offering on the factory. Exactly, like who cares? You do it. Then you don't use it on my Vice. There's the attack for 2. Yeah, there's the bolt. Yeah. But I get the play. Who's going to tap the Mox Ruby? And the Tundra. What are we going to see? Okay, there's an Atog. Does it mean that he's going to play out another creature? No, he's not. Yeah, again, this surprises me. This playing out the single Atogs. I guess then because of the Divine Offering, you can feed it to the Atog so he doesn't gain any life. That's a bit of a silver lining here. Ooh, there's a fork. Okay, I'm liking this. So he can now destroy the Ivory Tower at least. Oh, this fork is cool. I think you much rather would have played a fork on a disenchant though. So look at that. He's going to eat it so he doesn't gain life. He's going to fork the Divine Offering. Take care of the towers. This is really nice magic here by Joel. Really cool to see these things happen. Like I said, I think if you're Joel, you would have would have seen a disenchant, because then you could have taken out the Abyss or a COP red with that fork, but still a very cool play. And of course, really important to take out that tower to keep Felix on 9. You really don't want him to gain any more life. There's another land here. Passing the turn. Yeah, of course, the Atog destroyed by the Abyss. And the Abyss has been so good for Felix in this match. In this game too. Amazing here. Passing the turn. 2 cards in hand for Joel. And now again, Felix looking at 3 new cards. It's going to go up to 5 exactly. And as we know, Felix deck creatureless, super controlling. Basically wants to win with Lightning Bolt, Psionic Blast, and a big Fireball. So we don't have to expect much from Felix offensively in the next, I don't know, X turns. What is interesting, by the way, if you look at Felix's list, there's no card draw in there. Well, the Ancestral Recall, but no Jam Day Tomes or anything. See here, Joel asking about the graveyard of Felix. And that makes sense. You want to see what has already been played out, especially how many artifacts. Disenchant here. This is huge. Oh, counterspell though. Yeah, and you can see Joel. Whatever, man. I know how you feel, Joel. That can be frustrating. He has asked, of course, because of that, okay, how many counterspells do you have in your graveyard already? Do you think, okay, I've got kind of a chance of trying to get the disenchant through, but it got countered away. And I guess if you're Joel, you would... Oh, look at that. Joel picking up saying, you know what? You've got this. There's no out here for me anymore. I guess both of his disenchants were in the graveyard there, so he knew there wasn't a disenchant left. So both players are choosing to pick up their cards, and they're going to maybe make some adjustments, and we will catch back up with them in the all-decisive game number 3. Game number 3, here we go. So 1-1. Joel, of course, on the play after losing that second game, starting with the Vice, passing your turn to field. Oh, okay, not going. Mox Ruby and a Chain Lightning. So very strong start here. Now it looks like Felix took a mulligan here, so he's on 15 instead of on 14. And I guess when you play against the Vice deck and you're on the draw, it gets a little bit more easier to take a mulligan. Ooh, look at this strong opener though by Joel, right? I mean, turn 1 we saw Chain Lightning Vice. Turn 2 we see Ankh. It's really tough for Felix. Here we've got that Ankh Vice combination again. So Felix needs to play out lands exactly to empty his hand. But he doesn't want to, because for each land he takes 2 points of damage, already on 11. 5 cards left in hand, so going to drop to 10, I guess. There's a disenchant. Wow, Joel having everything here at the opener. Another bolt. Oh, man, it's looking so bad for Felix. Felix on 8. Playing a bolt here before he draws, so he doesn't take a point of damage. That makes absolute sense. So he did this in his upkeep. And now he's on 5. This is so bad for Felix. If he plays a land, he goes to 6. But if he doesn't, catch 22 times here for Felix. Passing the turn back to Joel here. Joel's on cloud 9, I can assume. There's an Atog here. Yeah, this is just great for him. There's a bolt, though. Again in the upkeep. Gonna play it on the Atog. If I'm Joel, I would be tempted to sack the Ruby here. Of course, I don't know what that one card in hand is. Perhaps it's a Surrender Befreed, for example. Looks like he's going to choose to let it die, so it must be something good in hand for Joel. But he's taking his time, understandably so. I mean, we are here in the finals, the last game of the finals. Whoever's going to win this is going to crown himself the champion of X Points 44. And if you want to see more finals, by the way, I have an entire playlist full of X points matches, including lots of finals. He is sacking the Ruby. Seems sensible, so the Atog survives. Again, 5 cards in hand for Felix. We haven't seen a single Swords to Plowshares, by the way, of Felix in all these games. I believe he's playing a full playset. Are we going to see a Swords now? Nope, we're going to see a Spirit Link. Okay, Spirit Link is something. Of course, he was waiting for Surrender to put the Spirit Link on, but the Atog will do as well, or has to do actually. Another Atog, yeah, bad news for Felix. 5 cards in hand again for him after the draw. It's looking so good for Joel here. Felix on 8. I mean, has to get rid of the Ankh. I mean, if he could play a Disenchant on the Ankh, in response, Joel's going to eat it up, right? Whatever. Doesn't matter. Then next turn, he can swing in for 3 and he'll survive. So are we going to see a Disenchant here? I think that's the best possibility for Felix as far as I can tell. I mean, Joel is tapped out, right? So Felix doesn't have to worry about any counter magic. Okay, yeah, there's a Disenchant. So on the Ankh, I assume exactly. So gonna eat it up. Joel drawing card for turn. Now, of course, he's got a free swing with the Atog, and then he's got a decision to make. Is he going to sack the Vice to the Atog to deal 3 points of damage, or is he just going to keep it to 1 point of damage? I think that really depends on what he has in hand. Okay, there we see 1 card of the 2. That's a Mishra's Factory. That's quite nice. Could even sack the Factory. Let's see, 3, 5, 6. No, it just needs 2 extra points actually, so it's not there. Remember how Spirit Link works, by the way. You first take the damage, then you gain the life. So if you can kill him before that, he doesn't gain the life anymore. So there's the attack with the Atog, just dealing 1 damage it seems, so then Felix will drop to 7. Or not. Is Joel planning something more? Does he want to animate the Factory? He is thinking about it, having his hand there on that Factory. He's like, am I going to do it? I mean, if it's worth it, really depends on that 1 card in hand for Joel. If he sacks it, he can deal 3 points of damage, put Felix on 5. He could also sack the Vice as well, put him on 3. And then if that 1 card's a Bolt, he can win the game. It's as simple as that. But if that 1 card's not a Bolt, exactly, just going to feed the Vice past turn, thinking, okay, next turn I can animate the Mishra's Factory as well. So 5 life now for Felix. Felix needs answers here, or else it's the end of the road for him here in the finals. 2 cards in hand for Joel. There's a Strip Mine, probably on the Volcanic, exactly. More bad news here. And I have to say, Joel's really drawing fantastically, especially in the first 2 turns of this game. There's the attack with everything. Are we going to see a Swords to Plowshares here? Okay, there's a Swords to Plowshares. I mean, you want to play it, I guess, on the Atog that's not enchanted. Because if you play it on the Mishra's Factory, he's just going to feed the Factory to one of the 2 Atogs, and you're still going to take damage. So 2 damage taken by Felix, going to go to 3. Are we going to see a Bolt? No, we're not. Just a pass. So Felix is going to get at least 1 more turn. Finding a Volcanic. Passing the turn, you back to Joel. Felix on 3, so he can animate the Factory, attack with both. And then forcing Felix to have an answer or die. Those are the 2 options that he then has, which are not great options. There's the animate. There's the attack, I guess. Yes, there's the attack, turning them sideways. Oh, reverse damage. I love it. Reverse damage. That is so cool. That is so cool. So going to play the reverse, I guess, on the Factory, right? There we see the Ankh. Oh, this is so good. Of course, he had to play the reverse, by the way, on the Atog, or else Joel in response again is going to sack the factory to the Atog. That's why Felix is now on 2. Took me a moment to realize this. And that Ankh of Mishra is also horrible for Felix. I mean, it was a really cool play with the reverse, but it's not going to help him. Another reverse in hand. Also a bolt. Yeah, it is what it is. Joel simply drew too good in that third game. So that means a victory here for Joel. Congratulations, Joel. You are our X Points champion, 44. And here you see the deck photo of the winning deck, Atog Burn by Joel. Congratulations again with winning finals, X Points 44. And of course also congrats to Felix for making it all the way up to the finals with your 5-color creatureless control deck. Now before you go, please take a moment to like, share and comment on this video. All these things are free and really help the channel move forward. And talking about moving forward, you can also support the show by becoming a patron. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks for all the information. And maybe I'll see your name next time in the end scroll at the end of every single video. What end scroll? This end scroll.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, put him in the longboat until he's sober. Put him in the longboat until he's sober. Put him in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. She rises early in the morning. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Early in the morning. Way up she rises. Way up she rises. Way up she rises early in the morning. What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Put him in the scoundrel. 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 Put him in the scoundrel.
Igitus, figitus, sumba, kazee.